English has for our nouns?
Subject, possessive, and adjective.
Subject, possessive, and objective, right? These kind of are the three cases that English has. Greek is going to have 5 cases. We're going to see a subject, we're going to see a possessive, we're going to see an objective. We're also going to see an indirect. We'll learn about that on Thursday. And then also a vocative case, the case of direct address. We'll talk about that later. So these are the 3 basic cases in English. So let me write out a sentence for you. The quick brown fox. Have you guys, or sorry, the quick red fox. Have you guys heard the sentence before? Yeah. We are going to diagram this a lot through the course of the next few months, just because it has a lot of the parts of speech in it. The quick red fox jumped over the lazy brown dog. So, in English, let me get rid of these 3 cases up here. What is our subject of the sentence?
Fox.
Fox. So I'm just going to write subject up here. What is the object of the sentence? Brown dog. We'll actually just go dog as the object. Yeah, so you know basically English. And how do you know that fox is the subject and not dog?
Because he jumped over it.
Yes, so we could call this right here, we'll diagram this part right here. This is called the preposition, not the preposition, the predicate. Getting my terms mixed up here. And then this part here, the quick red fox, we'll just draw a dash there, is the subject. So we have our subject, the quick red fox, the verb goes with our predicate, the jumped over the lazy brown dog. We know that the fox is the subject because of word order. Word order is king in English. And so we're going to diagram the sentence a lot because it has adjectives, it has subject, it has verb. As you can see, the verb is with the predicate. Preposition, we have another adjective. We also have the article. What is an article, if you guys remember this category? So in English, we have 2 articles. We have the definite article, which says something specific. If I were to change the to an a, what does that do to the sentence? We're moving from a specific, the quick red fox, to a generic, a quick red fox. We're saying a lot just by changing the article. Greek also has an article. It's the definite article. They don't have an indefinite article. We'll talk about that more later. But we have the article, the, quick, adjective, red, adjective, fox, subject, jumped, verb, preposition over, the article. We could change this to a lazy brown dog, which again changes the sentence. Lazy, adjective, brown, another adjective, dog, object. It's also a cool sentence because it has every single letter in the alphabet, in the English alphabet. But we're going to get very familiar with this. Any questions on kind of how this works? A little bit? Yeah, so the possessive case, let me just get rid of this here. The English possessive case is going to be a little bit different, but you guys should be very familiar with how it works. So if I were to say, my computer is broken. What? What is the subject?
Computer.
It would actually be mine. This is a possessive. My computer. It is a subject, but yes, my computer is possessive. Is, here's our predicate, broken. And then broken would be the object. So the possessive is going to be, it's going to make sense. My computer, your computer, his computer, their computer. We could.
So if it says a computer.
Yeah, a computer or the computer. So we just said a computer is broken. Completely changes the sentence. It's now.
We don't know
It's not
what
possessive.
computer is.
We don't know what computer. If I were to say the computer, you'd be like, oh, the computer for school, or see how just changing one word affects the whole sentence. Any questions on that? One more English sentence, and then we're kind of look and compare this to Greek. So yesterday, after lunch, I'm not going to put any punctuation here. After lunch, the students, yep, were complaining about the short recess. So, in a moment, what is our subject?
Students.
Students. And how did you know it's not yesterday after lunch?
It's descriptive of.
It would be
So the were is agreeing with students. This, yesterday after lunch, I intentionally did not put a comma here, which actually needs it. Yesterday after lunch, the students were, and what is our object in the sentence? So I'll put subject.
Let's say, can you do about the objects?
What is the object?
Complaining.
That's a
Recess.
participle, so it's a verb.
So
recess.
Short recess. Short is our adjective, so recess is actually the object here. This, yesterday after lunch, is an introductory clause. You'll find introductory clauses in Greek as well. That is really independent, but it serves to kind of place us in a specific time. When were the students complaining? Not today, but yesterday after preposition lunch. So the introductory clause is giving us kind of a place in time as far as when this is happening. The students, subject, were complaining. Okay, what were they complaining? About the short recess. So word order is crucial for English. If I were to switch the subject with the object, it would read, yesterday after lunch, the short recess was complaining about the students. That doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't it make any sense? Because short recess is an inanimate object and can't complain about something.
what if you did like the short recess had the students complaining?
That'd be a passive sentence.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're moving the object into the place of the subject. You could make it work. It would just be a passive sentence.
So is that incorrect or something?
It's frowned upon.
Okay.
It would work. It would just be very. So here's an example. So the piano. Here's an example. The piano in this sentence is our object. The piano was our verb, played, again another verb, by him. So him is the subject, the piano is the object. So it works, just is a little bit awkward. You wouldn't find a whole lot of people, you don't find a whole lot of people talking in the passive language. We'll talk about passive voice later. But this is a good example of a passive sentence.
Okay.
Or you could do Yoda speak, where you have object, subject, verb. Also very rare, not good English, but you could use Yoda speak, which is the subject, object, verb. A good English sentence is subject, verb, object. I went to the park.
Okay.
went to, it's more of a dative sentence, but that's all right. We'll talk about that later. So word order, like I said, is important in English. You get the point across very clearly. Greek, on the other hand, word order is not necessarily as important. And so this is why we need cases in Greek, or why we need to know cases. Because you could have your verb in Greek. So if you were to see this word, luo, you'll actually get very familiar with this word later. This is a verb. It means I lose. So in Greek, you could just have the verb in any of the case endings, a finite verb, and that will be the subject of your sentence. I in the implied subject of the sentence. We'll get comfortable with that later. But you could also have ego luo. This is kind of redundant because we have I lose here and I. Word order is not as important in English or in Greek as it is in English, because you would probably find this construct here, but you're going to be finding different things going on in the sentence. We'll talk about that more later. So what is important is the case. Today, we are just going to learn 2 of the 5 cases. And we're also going to learn the article. So we're going to learn half of a paradigm. Paradigms, let me just ask the question, what's a paradigm?
It's the it's a little chart that you put the declensions and the cases into.
Exactly, yeah. So a paradigm, we could also say, is a system or a pattern of forms. So where am I at? And we'll talk a little bit more about the article here shortly. But in Greek, there are 3 declensions. I told you this last week. 3 declensions. Today, we're just going to learn half of one paradigm. And this is going to be the same paradigm. But before we start going into that, Tobin, what is logos? Have you studied that one at all?
Word.
Word, yeah. So logos, there's a couple.
Logos or logos?
I'm going to say logos. Kibby is going to say logos.
Okay.
But logos. So we're going to break this down a little bit. So kind of to show you what's happening here, I'm going to put the sigma way out here. So we have loga and then sigma. This is the stem of the word. The stem of the word plus the nominative case ending is going to be the lexical form of the word, or the dictionary form of the word. So logos, anytime that you're looking in a dictionary, logos will always be listed as logos. This is the nominative, or the subject of the sentence. So think of this right here. I'll just write this out for you. Subject equals nominative. We'll go ahead and use this language here on out. Nominative. Object, or objective, just go object. Object equals accusative. We're going to just adopt this language now. So the nominative is the subject, and the accusative is the object. So the lexical form of the word will always be the nominative singular form of the word. Just like in English, the inflected meaning from the singular to plural could be the difference between word. What's the plural of word?
Words.
Words, yeah. So again, plural adds, some words will add the S, some might add an ES. We'll kind of get used to that as we go. So Greek also has singular words, plural words. So the lexical form of the word will always be the nominative singular form of that word. There's one more thing here. Logos is a masculine noun. English doesn't really have a whole lot of gendered words, whereas Greek does. Greek has masculine, feminine, and neuter words. Not that these are necessarily important, not that logos is always going to be logos is not going to be like means it's male. It's a male word. It just is a masculine word. Kind of like how Spanish has Maria versus Mario, or you can see kind of some differences there. So logos will always be in the dictionary the nominative singular form of that word. But it's going to have some inflection. So logos is going to be different than logon. This is the accusative. So if you see the word logon, that's the accusative always.
So logon, or it's never going to be neuter.
Logos will never be neuter. Logos will always be, in every circumstance, always be masculine. Logos will never be feminine, and it will never be neuter.
Even though you can put a new thing and it will never.
Correct. Logos will never be any gender other than masculine. That's the nice thing about nouns, is they don't change. Let me kind of fill this out. So we have, let me just kind of write this out real quick for you. I'm just going to put logos under this first two. So logos. So the feminine, because we're in the first declension, is also going to have it's going to have a different word for it. This is going to be graphe. So do you know what graphe means?
Right. No.
Writing or scripture. So graphe will always, in the noun form, will always be feminine. It's never going to be masculine, never going to be neuter, and you're going to find the same thing true. So graphe will not be masculine, and it will not be neuter. Graphe is always going to be feminine.
How do you know? Why is that? Do you just have to memorize which ones are which?
Mm-hmm. And we're going to I'm going to give you some tools here shortly to kind of to be able to determine the difference between the two genders, or the two nouns. Then we have another one, ergon, and this is a neuter noun.
Nice.
Always going to be neuter, never going to be masculine, never going to be feminine. You may find different words, like what we saw on the board today, ergotane, but that is actually a gendered noun. It's not ergon. So, let me get rid of this here.
So it'll be neuter, either an accusative or nominative.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm sure you're probably wondering, why do I have a 2-1-2 here, right? So if we can kind of just draw lines down here like this, we're going to start to see something going on here. So the second declension is telling you how masculine nouns are going to decline. So we start with the lexical form always, which is called the nominative. We're going to write nom here. So it's going to decline. It's going to change form. It's going to change tense. And I'm going to show you what's happening here. So in the accusative, I'm going to write ACC. There's 3 other cases that we're not going to talk about tonight. But we're going to see logos declines to logon. This is the, I'm going to just draw a line here. So this is singular. I'm going to draw the plural down here. So you see something that's happening here, right, Tobin? These are the cases. Things are changing in this in this word. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to underline the changes that you're seeing. So this is going to help you remember. So this is half of a paradigm. And so I'm going to show you kind of how to remember the chart. So you don't have to remember the paradigm, but you do need to recognize as you're translating. So over here, we're going to go graphe. Then we're going to go graphane. Different. So this is telling you it's the subject. This is telling you it's the object of the sentence. So again, with keeping up with that line, graphai, and then graphas. So you see some variation here. So I'm just going to, again, draw an underlining so you can see how things are changing. So this is the object of the sentence, and it means scripture. This is the subject of the sentence, and it means scriptures. And the inflected meaning for the object here in the plural is scriptures. It's one of those words that doesn't really change from the subject, the object, and the singular and plural. And I'm going to show you kind of what's happening here a little bit. So then for the other one, so this is the first declension, and it tells you how the word is going to decline given the patterns that we know. The next one is ergon. This one's actually pretty easy. So we have the nominative, ergon means work, and then we have the accusative, ergon. Well, it didn't really change much. But context will tell you with the neuter noun which one is the subject, which one is the object. So then with the plural, got another one to go. We've got erga, and then we have erga. So in the nominative and the accusative, both for the singular and the plural, ergon doesn't change much. So keep that in mind as you're working through. And so this is the difference between work and then what's the plural of work?
Working.
Works.
Work.
As a noun, not as a verb. Works. And you're going to get very comfortable with this. So like I said, 3 declensions. And you're always going to find it masculine, feminine, neuter. So you're going to find when we're doing working with any paradigm, you're going to either see 2-1-2 or 3-1-3, and it's going to tell you how the word declines with this set of patterns. Let me go ahead and get rid of the board real quickly, and I'll show you kind of the case endings here. And this is what I would stress learning more than these paradigms, because this paradigm is going to have a total of 4 words per word per line. So you're going to be looking at 8 different forms of logos, 8 different forms of graphe, 8 different forms of ergon. So let me show you kind of what's happening here. And you can open up on Nouns chapter 6 and you can follow along here and see. So what we see here, I'm just going to give you the ending of the word. So for logos, the case ending for the nominative is going to be the ending of sigma. And then the case ending for the accusative, I'm going to just write ACC-NOM, is new. For the plural, so singular, plural, is really just an iota that does not subscript. We have an iota that subscripts, and it looks very different. We'll learn about that on Thursday. And then for the accusative, we're going to have an upsilon sigma as the case ending. And that's the second declension. So it's telling us how these are going to decline. The thing about the second declension, and I'll kind of cue you in here, So every word that has the stem of the word is what carries the meaning. The case ending tells you how it functions. So the stem of logos is laga. That's going to stay the same in all cases. It'll look different in one case, but it's still going to be the same stem. In all nouns, all verbs, the stem is what carries the meaning. The case ending tells you function. We're gonna get very comfortable with that.
So the case ending, it would be also the form?
Yeah, the form. So cat is the English dictionary here. Cat doesn't have a whole lot of inflected meaning in English. It can be my cat, his cat, the cat, a cat. There's not a whole lot of inflected meaning for cat, or changed meaning, or changed form of it. Greek, you're going to see a lot more changed form. And we'll talk about those more later, but you're just understand that the stem of the word is what carries the meaning. The case ending tells you function, tells you case. In the case of graphe, we haven't gotten here yet, but
when you say function, are you saying the subject?
Subject, object, dative, or indirect object, or possessive object. Yeah. Or, yeah, possessive noun. So we have sigma, nu, iota, upsilon, sigma as our first four that we're learning for the second declension. So in the second declension, we're going to see logos, and this is key here. Every single word or every single noun that has an omicron in the as the last word of the stem is going to be second declension. It can be second declension masculine or second declension neuter. If it's neuter, it's going to follow this pattern over here. If it's masculine, it's going to follow over here. There are a couple second declension nouns. They're rare that are actually masculine, or not masculine, but they're second declension feminine nouns. We'll address those later. It's safe to say that most nouns that fall under the first declension are feminine nouns. The case endings for feminine nouns can either be, or the words can either be ending in an eta. So in the case of graphe, ends in eta, the stem ends in eta, or ends in an alpha. So these are going to be the two that determine if it's a first declension noun. And so we'll work out that more later. And then in the case of the nominative singular, there is no different case ending. Graphe, hora, those are going to have the same ending. There's no additional ending in the feminine. In the accusative, we're going to have a nu as the case ending. So graphein or graphe becomes graphein. Hora becomes horan. Hora means hour. In the plural, we're going to find an I as the case ending. And then for the new plural accusative, we're going to find the as. But it's more kind of that sigma here we're looking at. Sigma is the case ending to it. Any questions on that one? Nope. We're getting a little bit of practice here. So then, for the neuter, there is no case ending in the singular. There's no special case ending for both the nominative and accusative. It's the same. And then in the plural, we're going to have alpha, alpha as the case endings.
In the neuter position.
In the neuter, yeah, in the nominative and the accusative neuter positions. I see your little.
Yeah, it's all right.
Let me talk about one more thing here real quick that we're going to be learning. So those are kind of the tips and tricks here. We're going to talk about the article now. So I talked about the article a little bit. If there is any paradigm I want you to learn, There's three. This is one of them. Article is one of them. The article is going to stay the same. So after Thursday, after you learn the full paradigm of the article, you will never add to that paradigm. It will always stay the same. The nice thing about the article, regardless of the declension, the article will indicate gender. There's a little bit more ambiguity with nouns. In the third declension, context tells you what gender it is. But, so I'm going to write the singular, and I'm going to write the plural. So again, what's the first thing I'm going to write for this paradigm? I'm going to write nominative, or at least nom for short. What's the second thing I'm going to write?
Accusative.
Accusative. What's the third thing I'm going to write? I'm going to write nominative for plural. What's the fourth thing I'm going to write?
Accusative.
Accusative. And so the article is going to look like this. So for the nominative singular masculine article, it's going to look like an omicron, just a rough breathing mark. Ha, right? Ha. The accusative is going to look like this. Ton, right? And then for the plural, it's going to be hoi, and it's going to be tus. Now here's the beautiful thing about the article. So ha, green with the stem. The article will always agree with the stem. With the word it's modifying. Halagas. Now this is where it's actually pretty cool. Tan lagan. See how we have the same here and here? So the article will tell you not only gender, but also and it will also tell you function. We'll get very used to this later. So I'm just going to write everything out here. So N and A. So ton, hoi, and tus. And then for the feminine article, we're going to go hey, and we're going to go tain. So once you learn the paradigm of the article, you never have to learn anything more to the article, ever. And we're going to look at hi, and then tas. And over here, it's going to be ta, not going to be ton. And then what do you think that this article is going to be here? The accusative singular neuter. It's going to be ta. They're going to be the same. Why are they going to be the same? Because the neuter nouns are the same in the nominative and the accusative. You're going to see that always. Every single noun you're going to come across that's a neuter noun, the accusative and the nominative are always going to be the same.
So ta is always going to be the singular neuter.
Yep, always going to be the singular neuter. And then, so over here, what do you think the article is going to be? I'll give you the first one. Ta.
It's going to have an alpha.
Yep, alpha versus omicron. So this one here is also going to be ta. We'll kind of work on that later, a little bit more as we go through. But the case of the word determines function, not necessarily word order. So if you see, you would rarely see the accusative over before the nominative, but you may not have a nominative case, but it might be implied through the verb. But word order does not necessarily tell you function of the word. The case does. The case ending of the word. So I think I'm going to stop there, just because I can see there's a little bit of glaze going over